Eli here, and today we're going to go over the Atlas as of 3.13, or the Echoes of the Atlas expansion. With the addition of the Maven to the game, we now have two progression paths, one that leads towards Sirus and the Conquerors, and the other that leads towards the Maven fights. Let's cover the progression path towards the Conquerors and Sirus first. In the beginning of a new league, in order to unlock one of these citadels, you need to do a Tier 3 map or above. Once you beat the Tier 3 boss, Xana will open a portal and show you the new citadel for that zone. Click on that and you're good to go. That means doing at least Tier 3 maps for each zone. Now when it comes to spawning the Conquerors and therefore getting their Watchstones, the old rule was, prior to 3.13, or Echoes of the Atlas, you had to go to the 4 outer corner zones first in order to get your first 4 Watchstones. Then you had to go into the 4 inner zones to get the 16 Watchstones from in there. Then you went back out to the outer 4 corners, and then you went back in to get the rest. At least that's a common variation of that strategy. Now, we no longer need to do that. With the introduction of the Maven and the dual progression system that we have in place, the Atlas now allows you to get Conquerors and their Watchstones from any zone at any time. Now, because of this, we have free reign to go wherever we want on the Atlas and do whichever maps that we want. And this is really important because the name of the game, the problem with the Atlas, is sustaining maps, right? So what we want to do is do everything in our power to get the bonus objectives up as high as possible. Now that we can go anywhere on the Atlas whenever we want to spawn Conquerors, this means we can go anywhere and just collect bonus objectives as we please. So because we can go anywhere on the Atlas whenever we want to spawn Conquerors, we're not limited to specific zones. So what is our strategy exactly? First and foremost, we want to get this bonus objective number up as high as possible. This allows maps to roll additional tiers when they drop. So instead of dropping a Tier 3, you might drop a Tier 4, or a 5 to a 6. Eventually, when you get over 100% bonus, you give a chance for the map to drop 2 tiers higher. This bonus objective number is critical to sustaining maps. And our bonus objective is that one right there that says bonus kill boss of magic or higher version in this map. When you hover over a map, you can see what you need to do in order to get the bonus objective. For white tier maps, it's going to be complete a magic version of the map. For yellow tier, it's going to be complete a rare version of the map. And for red tier, it's going to be a rare and corrupted version of the map. So how do we go about getting all these maps that we don't have? Well, one way you can do it is by buying them through Xana. You're probably going to need a lot of chance orbs in order to get these maps off of her, but anything you can do at the beginning of a league to speed up that bonus objective is worth it. The other obvious choice is to go to the trade site and buy them from other players. This is what I personally do. Every time I get into a new league and get to maps, the first priority above almost all else is buying maps that I don't have. Now, a couple more notes on progressing the Conqueror track towards Sirus. When we have a citadel unlocked and we are progressing through, we can spawn all 4 Conquerors in one zone. It's a very common strategy at the start of the league to do all of the maps that you can in one particular zone while taking the Watchstones and inserting them into citadels of an adjacent zone so that when a higher tier map drops, they all drop into that adjacent zone. This is sort of known as leapfrogging. So what leapfrogging does is it takes advantage of how the Atlas works from a mechanical perspective. Basically, any map that is on your Atlas and completed can drop. That's part of your potential map drop pool. So, for example, if you have Tyrann's End here, and we have Lake Proxima here, now we have all white maps all across here. If a Tier 6 map was going to drop, it can only drop from Lake Proxima right now, because Tier 6 maps only exist in this zone on your Atlas. So what leapfrogging does is you will be working towards all your Watchstones in a particular zone, but you will have your Watchstones that you get progressively higher into other zones. So in this example, let's say we're in Tyrann's End, we've gotten all 4 Watchstones, and now we have a ton of maps that could have only dropped into Lake Proxima because they are the higher tiers, right? and our 2 other watchstones that we got, we decided to put down here into Valdo's Rest. So now when we go into Lake Proxima and run all of these maps that we've collected, not only are we collecting more maps into this zone here, any higher tier maps must drop from Valdo's Rest. And so this helps us leapfrog from zone to zone. So now we can get Lake Proxima's watchstones. So we have 4 more by the time we're done with this zone, and we can socket those around other zones in the map. So for progressing our Atlas from a Sirus perspective and Conquerors perspective, nothing's really changed except that we now have the freedom to go anywhere across the Atlas to gather watchstones wherever we want, whenever we want. However, we now also have the Maven to consider. With the Maven, once you start doing tier 5 maps, I believe they have it right now, the Envoy will start showing up. And as soon as he shows up, I believe 3 times is what we found, you will have the Maven watch the fight, and then that boss fight will give you the Maven's beacon, which you can then activate through your map device to allow the Maven to witness any fight that you want. And remember, as long as this button here is orange, that means that the Maven is going to witness any fight that she can. So the Maven fights are represented by these blue bars above the Citadel, and it starts with 0 watchstones, you need 3 fights. With 1 watchstone, you need 4 fights. 2 watchstones is 5 fights. 3 watchstones is 6 fights, and 4 watchstones is 10 fights. And that's the amount of fights that you need to have her witness before you can enter into a battle with all of those bosses. For the 3, 4, 5, 6 battle fights, you will get a quest item that drops off the final boss, which is the invitation, which allows you to go and fight those bosses. When you get to 10 boss battles, you will have to find an item that drops, which is a Maven invitation for specific zones. And that is what this is right here. So in Tyrann's End, once I have 10 bosses witnessed by the Maven, I can put that into the map device and go and fight all 10 of those bosses. Now the interesting thing where this conjoins together with the Sirus progression is once you get to 10 boss battles and complete those fights, you can start getting these watchstones, these craftable watchstones, and these count towards your awakening level. If we look here, I think in here, I still don't have the blue watchstone from Lexajoris because I don't need it. I can use these craftable watchstones to up my awakening level and up the map tiers of these zones just like a normal watchstone. So the question I ask myself is there merit to focus firing on a single zone to get 10 boss battles for the Maven in order to get extra watchstone drops? Because, for instance, if we do Tyrann's End, and I get all 4 of these watchstones, and then get up to 10 boss battles for the Maven here, I can get a bunch of watchstones for this zone, potentially, and maybe other zones, and fill up the rest of my Atlas that way. But as I think about it more, I really think the best way to go about doing this is just to buy all of the maps that you can, either through Xana or the trade site, to focus primarily on the bonus objectives, and leave the Maven as kind of the, it's not important, it's not unimportant, but definitely second tier priority in terms of getting to Awakening level 8 and getting a really high bonus objective first. Those are the most important things because that allows you to get map sustain. And map sustain is what will allow you to fill out all of the extra 10 boss battle zones for the Maven, which will then in turn, of course, let you get all of the passive points that you need for the Atlas. Because recall, every time you beat a boss battle in a zone, you get 2 Atlas passive points for that zone. At the end of the day, you really don't have to do anything specifically different, I don't think, to progress the Maven as well as Sirus. It's just that you want to focus on getting those map objectives and getting all of the maps around the Atlas completed as you can. Eventually, you will be able to focus and get 10 boss battles in a certain zone, which will allow you to build up Crescent Splinters so you can get the Maven's Writ and unlock the Uncharted Realms passives. And once you do, by beating the Maven, of course, then I would probably go with Close Allies in the early league just to get master missions for free. The reason I would go for Close Allies as soon as possible is because you're getting free Atlas missions every day and then a bonus chance for more missions. And this is important when you're trying to fill out your Atlas and maybe get red tier maps or rare maps, uniques that you can't otherwise get either because they're too expensive or what have you. Xana sells maps herself, and she has a nice list here, as we know, but when you run a Xana mission in a map, her list of maps that she's selling gets reset. And let's see that here. We have a Resonance map, Tier 4, that's our final and conservatory. We'll go here, and we'll put in here, and we'll do a Xana mission, and once those portals spawn, her list will change. Here we go. And now we have a Shaper map, which is great. We have Lost Worlds, meh, whatever. But we can go back here, and we can toss in another map and do a Xana mission. And once those map portals show up, then we will have another set of maps. So if you're getting free Xana missions, you know, probably early in League and throughout the mid-League, you'll want to be running those extra Xana missions for maps, right? But each time you complete that map, and then Xana's map, you can come back out here and recheck her stockpile for any rare maps that you might really be needing. This, by the way, is what your Maps tab looks like when you have really high sustain. And the reason we're over here is because I wanted to point out, too, that you can sell 3-of-a-kind maps to the vendor, and you will get a tier up in that same zone. Here we go. So if you're missing Lyra Arthane maps and you have a bunch of them of one kind or what have you, you can sell them to the vendor to get some other maps. It is static, it's always going to be the same, so if I sell Lighthouse maps, it will always give me a precinct map, but this is another pathway to progression. So to recap, what do we want to do? Right off the bat, when we get to maps, we want to buy as many maps as we can, either through Xana or the trade site, so that we can get our completed bonus objectives up. This allows us to, over time, generate higher map sustain, and as we do this, we will naturally get our Awakening bonus objectives, which will further help, but most important is going to be our bonus objectives here. Then along with that, once we hit tier 5 maps and above, we want to talk to the Envoy whenever we see him and get the Maven onto our map device so she can start witnessing battles, and we can start building up towards that 10 boss battle fight where we get Splinters and the Maven's Writ and craftable Watchstones, which then allows us eventually to get into close allies, which will help us greatly expand our map sustain and get other maps from Xana directly, and rare maps from her within the maps that allows us to flesh out and build out our bonus objectives and Awakening objectives on the map. And of course, this is all while we are trying to get as many Conquerors spawned as we can, and if we so choose, using the Leapfrog method, where we force the Atlas to only have a tier range of maps in a certain zone, so that's the only zone our highest tier maps can drop in. That's going to be it for this Atlas recap. I hope you enjoyed what I did here. Hope you learned something, most importantly. My socials and all that good stuff are in the description below. And for now, this is Eli, signing off.